Hello, Joyce. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Cleveland. Paul Giamatti here. I was asked by Joyce to say a few words about Harvey. It's a nice opportunity to be offered. I don't want to bore everybody by banging on and on about it, because I could say a lot about him. So I'll try to be brief. And I hope that this is being well filmed. I've never done something like this before. Joyce asked me to make sure it's the highest resolution it possibly can be, seeing as I have no idea how to ensure that that's the case. I'm just hoping it looks good and that Joyce won't yell at me. Please don't yell at me, Joyce. Anyway, I played Harvey in the movie American Splendor, and it was the best job I ever had. Not only because it was a great part and it was a fun movie to work on, but because I got to meet Harvey and I got to hang out with him. And I think he was a little bit skeptical about the particular actor playing him, me, but he had no problem with somebody playing him, which was an amazingly mature attitude to have. But I think I got him over his skepticism because I had the bright idea to ask somebody in the movie to arrange that he and I go to a bookstore in Cleveland together. So he took me to Zubal's Books, which I hope is still there, or still functioning in some way. Maybe it's online entirely if it's not operating. An amazing, amazing bookstore. And pretty much most of my memories of hanging out with Harvey and talking with Harvey were about books. And going to bookstores. And I was remembering how one of the most pleasant visits I've ever had to a film festival was to the Edinburgh Film Festival. When we went there with American Splendor, and I went with Harvey and Joyce and Danielle, and we were all so ridiculously excited to be able to go to bookstores in Edinburgh, fantastic used bookstores. And I remember I was obsessed with this obscure Scottish writer named James Hogg, early 19th century writer. Don't ask me why I was, but I was. And Harvey thought this was just great and ridiculous, and he would get this huge grin of almost satanic joy on his face when I would mention him, and he would go, "James Hogg, you gotta be kidding me, man, I never know. Who is James Hogg?" Like this. And we would go to these bookstores, and he would go right up to the person behind the counter and be like, "You have any James Hogg? My buddy wants some James Hogg." And I found it. He found me a 3-volume collected edition of James Hogg, and I still have it. And I just think of him every time I look at it. The thing that I loved about him was that ideas were living things to him. They were emotional, they were alive. There's not many people like that in the world, left in the world, and there just aren't many people like that anyway. And it was so great to be around somebody for whom this stuff was alive. It's such a huge imagination, gigantic imagination. It was great to be around. And I was thinking about the last time, 2 times I talked to him. And for some reason he'd become fascinated by the history of organized crime in America, Italian organized crime and Jewish organized crime, even more so. And my father, who was an Italian American, was writing a book about Italian Americans and the Italian American experience. And my father, one of the things he was writing about was the origins of the word mafia. So I got a huge thing with Harvey about this, because this is the kind of thing you talk to him about, but for real talk to him about. And somehow this led to talking about the origin of the phrase hero sandwich, a hero sandwich. And first of all, we talked about all the different things you could call a sandwich like that. In the Northeast, they're called grinders. In some other places, they're called sub-sandwiches. I mean, there's kind of weird names for them all over the place. A muffaletta in New Orleans is kind of the same thing. But hero sandwich was a thing, and he got vehement with me that it was from the Greek gyro, hero, the G-Y-R-O, which I just thought was absurd. I was like, it can't be that. It has to be something else. And a little while later, he called me up to say that, amazingly, I actually was right. It wasn't from hero, the Greek word for some kind of, that kind of sandwich.